Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 197th, I believe, episode of our first, our first YouTube run through House of Light. And yes, I think it is 197, playing as the archaeologist. Now, in the previous episode, we didn't make as much progress through the fall, through the or first day of the season, but that was partly due to my wish to set up my my enhancement. So I think we have exhausted the options that leave me with 6. I may mess around and go down to 5 for the ones that have a plus, but we can save that for later. And then we were going to decide on the guest list after we found out what the event is. And like I said, we will be doing something different this time around for the event. We're actually going to be going through those quite a bit faster than before. But for now, I'm going to settle for... Oh. That's my bad for not adding the... I should have read the description, but yeah, sorry. We're going to be changing up how we do the events, but otherwise, I'm going to... So in terms of overall effort, I'd say within a day or two we should resolve the guests in the salon. The majority of time is going to be spent on the sealed vault and then on the lessons that we'll be getting from reading the books and then also listening to the phonographs. All right, memories do not last long outside books, but it's made the difference for the day. So here we will add, in this case I'll use the bonus shaft for Reverend Timothy. This is really just for bragging rights at this point because the sacrament ascite should bring him over the edge, but in this case I'm kind of happy to get there sooner rather than later because we are going to want to deal with the new event that comes up. Developments in the world beyond Brandkrug, drawing a new incident. Alright, on Matthias and the Amethyst Imago, Pursuit, an account of an occult romance. A certain mech claims to have written this in a single night as part of his initiation into the Theban branch of the House of Leith, that order of immortals who use the arts of water to conceal themselves. Matthias defied us to hunt the names of the moth in the wood to populate his pinned collection. The Amethyst Imago had dallied with the witch and sister, but she'd returned to the wood to plead the moth's pardon. The moth, as a whim or a penance, sent her out to lure the Long to a slough of nightmares. Matthias loved the Imago. Did he? Can Long love, or has that organ of their soul desiccated beyond repair? The Imago loved Matthias. Did she, or did she only enact a whim? He pursued her through the wood, but at the last she turned aside from the nightmare slough, and they lay together where the bounds grow bright. So they learnt the Grail's pleasures, and this is the lore they won. Gossip. All right. So if memory serves, we are out of gossip areas, and I actually think we don't have... Oh! Right. Inconvenient. Actually, we do have a spare shelf here. I think we probably have enough gossip to justify... What am I doing? Okay, that fits rather tidy. Let's think now about... So actually one possibility I've got here would be... We could get another 4 for a... Actually, the other option that I have... Oh, I only have 2 for Savage Hymns. I really need something that we don't have a shelf for already. Bittersweet Certainty. Yeah, I've got room for 4 for the... Actually, you know what? That probably settles it then. So if I make this my Cheerful Ditties... And then this doesn't fully solve the problem, but I can make this Bittersweet Certainty. From there, I can take Savage Hymns. I'm probably going to regret this later, but actually, here's what I'm going to do for that. Musical part of the library. So you may find another home for these eventually, so I'm not crazy about a 4 slot taking up 2. But I think any of the other alternatives I would be considering would create their own problems. The other big one that I'm running into right now is Revelations. So we've got a whole bunch of empty space that's being occupied here, but I don't have... Actually, this is true for a couple of them, right? So Storms, like that's something that would fit rather well in this shelf. We've basically got a bunch of empty space, which is not being used as well as it could. But I don't want to spend like there will be time to do a full reimagining of the library, but if nothing else, this has earned me a couple of empty spaces in my overflow, which on its own I count as a win. Yeah, all of these are a little complicated to fix. What sovereign wonder, an earthquake name? Okay, we will go to the slightly less exalted bottle of wine. But in this case, this will help me clear out some of the stuff I've been picking up. Crack open the container, delight in your discovery. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Now, I suspect we're going to have more elements of the soul than we know what to do with, so I'm going to just keep working away at the sweet bones until I know more clearly what I'm doing with my time. All right, and Magister Hokebald has arrived. Is there someone en route to Hush House? The affair of the Oriflamme heist. Now, this is fun because I don't believe I've actually done this all the way to the end. Oriflamme's auction house is never robbed, but what if it has been? What if somehow priceless treasures have been replaced with pricey forgeries? How could we even be sure? Visitors with an interest in knock and forge mysteries will want to talk about this. Now, what's interesting here is I know I've definitely gotten this event before. I just know I haven't completed it. So, okay. Now, I'm not quite ready to talk with Magister Hokebald yet, but... Oh, he's inspired. I don't think I wrote that down. Interesting. I wonder if it was the Royal Endeavor. Yep, the Endeavor name Phissifer has been protected. The Royal Endeavor proceeds on schedule. I suspect that was probably it. All right, so we're gonna have to give Hokebald some time. I'm wondering. Actually, if memory serves, I don't think we have all of the guests yet, but what I want to do in terms of my planning, I'd kind of like to get all of the people who might be interested in the heist, and I'm not necessarily thinking from the perspective of what does their, like, what's the relevance, but like who are the people you would want to have in a salon talking about the heist. So like Dagmar feels like a pretty obvious option. Probably, or not Connie, probably Olympe from the journalistic angle. Could maybe see Hokebald. There's a couple of others. Oh, probably Frasier would be. Yeah, you know what? Actually, let's have some fun with this. So let's say. Actually, this is looking really similar to the last group that I put together. So we had Frasier, Daymare, Coquille, Arthur, and Douglas. So I'd maybe skip out on Arthur. So here's the interesting question. So if we say, okay, so Frasier, who admittedly doesn't have a direct connection to Oriflammes, but I can still justify. Douglas Moore, because he's the weary detective. Olympe, because she's... Oh, actually, I didn't write her in, so... So Frasier, Daymare, Olympe, Hokebald, Douglas. Actually, weirdly enough, it feels like Hokebald's the odd man out, but I'll justify it this time around just in the sense that he's maybe the one who let us know. But it's kind of funny when you ask which of the investigators would you want. So I guess Wakefield's, I think he says he's no longer with the Suppression Bureau. Connie is, but I kind of feel like Douglas at the working level would be the one who gets called in to investigate. So yeah, let's say it's going to be Fraser, Daymare, Olympi, Hokebald, and Douglas for the salon. And so with that in mind, I'll have a few. I definitely have some ideas in terms of what the salon's going to look like. So we'll start with roasting a beef joint. We'll do our good old-fashioned orange jumble. With Daymare, I think we're sort of forced to go for the game chips again. But I don't believe I have potatoes, so I'm going to need to work on that. Okay, so I would need a starter for Olympi. And then we would need forage for Hokebald. For this, I think I'm just going to go to my spreadsheet. Mostly because I figure it will save me the time. So first course we have... I wonder what kind of mothy... Let's also look for mothy first courses, which are probably a little harder to... Oh, Moli. Moli au jus is apparently the only first course. How badly do I want this? I think I might go for it, but it feels a little uncomfortable. And then there's lots and lots of forge stuff to go with. So I guess the question is which of these do I want to make? I mean, I could also do something with the pilchards. Actually, maybe I'll just do 2 batches of potatoes in this case. Okay, now the question is, okay, I do have moly, so let's... But I haven't tried to cook with it, so... Nope. There was definitely... I feel like I'm going crazy here. I should have this in my recipe list. Oh, butter and spices, right. So I need 2 sets of potatoes at some point once we settle on the on the various openings and such. Okay, Fraser. Let's find a way to get you in here. Right, now I also need to use the typewriter. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Strathcroyne to Brankrug. Also occurred to me I haven't brought Connie back since her first visit, so at some point I'd like to follow up. My assistant and I fall easily into conversation. And finally, the Sacrament site. Back in the Dawn period, the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot used this in the rites of the Horned Axe. Reverend Timothy is always, always happy to chat. I can offer my assistant something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, 2nd edition, or The Refinements of Light, Julian Cosley never wanted or expected to write a 2nd edition of his masterwork. Julian Cosley long regarded Solomon Husher as a charlatan, but his friend Nina Lagasse painted 3 paintings before her death in 1895, and these paintings apparently convinced Cosley to change his mind. With considerable irritation, he revised his magnum opus. So, I don't have the letter in front of me, but at some point I would like to cover this this letter, so maybe I'll try and do that for the episode at the end of the week. We'll see. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal. Cosley had always championed history rather than eternity, the exceptions, limitations, contradictions of freedom. But Husher's and Lagasse's work convinced him to believe in the paradox of the eternal ending, a means in which perfection might be reconciled with freedom. He's not happy about it. This is perhaps the angriest book ever written in support of a peaceful philosophy of acceptance, but Cosley was always scrupulous about his conclusions. So, a final understanding. Eternity and history cannot be reconciled. Freedom cannot be perfection, not unless we understand the paradox of the eternal ending, and only in certain histories is that paradox possible. Any librarian can use this to establish a history and complete the game, but the magnate can use it to win a particular victory. So that one is Rose, Sky, and Winter. It'd be nice if I can find a use for this, but I would kind of like to continue my inventory before too long. Okay. Let's keep going. Now I just need to post it. All right, find something with knock. I may not be able to do. Sorry, I'm looking for something with knock and grail, but that's not the way to do it. I think Magaphine is heart and moon, so that won't cover it. I don't think any of these are going to let me invite our dear friend, which is fine. We will just go to another desk. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Daymare to Brankrug. Now I just need to post it. Alright, let's see if we can get away with inviting Olympi with the moth transformations and liberations. Ought to do it. Hokebald's a special case, but Douglas should be easy to invite as well. All right, and Reverend Timothy's ready to go for the opening. Now, I mean, we could sit and talk to try and get the memories, but we have other options for that. So, the sealed vault, heavy granite door sealed with white wax, a triple lock ornamented with ivory and black nephrite. Now we can talk with Magister Hokebald. What a grim and chilly little country. I hope you've prepared a suitable welcome. Yes, this business at Oriflamme's. They admit nothing, but they have engaged me to make improvements to their vault. I have a great many thoughts on this vault matter, a great many. I have not yet resolved upon a particular course. I am here to make a preliminary survey of the relevant literature. So we need a 4 or higher for Forge, which isn't that tough of an ask. And we've already given him Vinzant's Minglings, so that won't do. But I don't want to give away the best stuff either. I mean, Book of Senders if I have to. Yeah, that Westcott fellow is too powerful to phone it in. And I imagine these, yeah. Okay. I suppose that will have to do. Here, it's overgenerous, but then I am an overgenerous person. It may perhaps be my only remaining weakness. All right, let's get Hokebald's invitation set up. Obviously, he's here, but we must respect the formalities. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Hokebald to Brandkrug. The Red Book of Brittany, a volume of ink lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman conquest. The red flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree are constant. The red flower is described as the temptation of suffering, but its suffering can apparently be allayed when the copper fruit is enspelled with nectar aspect alongside herbs and infusions techniques. A variant of the same approach, with the inks of power techniques outlined here, can gentle Lethe into a great ink. So got satisfaction for our trouble and inks of power. Now I think the satisfaction shelf is full up. That's the gossip shelf. Yes. Now, I thought we had an overflow for satisfaction here already, but apparently I was mistaken. Which makes me think that there is a satisfaction book hovering around the library somewhere. But if that was true, I would probably have made a note somewhere. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. And now I just need to post it. Okay. So, for Inks of Power, we are going to be leveling up the level 4 stuff. Now for Rose, this is interesting. So it's Inks of Power, but it's not just the level 4. We would be taking that, we'd have to take that up to level 6 to find a comparable one. But then with Scale, we can improve Pentiments and Precursors, Serpents and Venoms, and Wolf Stories. So the question is, do I want to put the 2 points into Inks of Power, or do I want to try and advance my alternatives like Pentiments and Precursors? What we'll probably do is Inks of Power and Pentiments and Precursors here. So for Pentiments and Precursors, we've actually already got a start with Satisfaction, and then that's something we can do here with the Final Understanding as well. Regrettably, the sound is Heart, so we don't have much we can do with that. And then the Sunny Day is Lantern and Sky. However, we can take the Gossip towards Inks of Power. So realistically here, all that we need to do is get 2 more Rose or Scale. And then for Pentiments and Precursors, we need 4 Scale or Grail. So there's it's not a full split, but we have a nice little division between the two memories that we're pursuing. And then obviously we should have another book finishing off reasonably soon, I would think. I'm trying to think which one it would have been. Oh, good lord, I didn't even... Yeah, I just wasted all that time on Amethyst, Matthias and Amethyst Indigo without even thinking about the skill. That's my bad completely. I should have paid attention, because I heard the clicking and I was wondering what that was for. But that's fine, we've got what we need to do with Inks of Power. If my Tryst becomes tainted, I'll need to fix that, but now would not be a bad time for me to be hit by that, just because I've got sort of the free time to deal with it. And we've got something especially tasty. Crack open the container, delight in your discovery. Ruby-wise ruin, a ruddy liquor wrung from flowers, even when the flowers aren't red. Okay, so I've got a pretty clear idea of how the rest of the day looks at this point. But I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode, which should be coming out tomorrow. Until then, take care.